So it says on my end, oh, there it goes. Recording and transcription has started. All right, well, let's go. So without further ado, here's today's agenda with the theme partnerships. We're excited to have a terrific lineup of speakers
2.5
and
hours.
panelists. And we feel that we have a lot to offer today. Thanks for all of our speakers for sharing your time, expertise, and experiences with us. Each of the sessions will be 25 to 35 minutes long with a question and answer. And at 2:30, we'll take a 10-minute bio break for our next presentation and our final session, which will be a panel discussion on partnerships. So we'll all try to keep this all on time. Tina, are we ready to go then with our first speaker?
I believe so. Looks like it says it's recording and transcribing. So
Thank goodness.
Hopefully that is the case.
All right. Thank you so much. So now we'll just turn it over to our first speaker is Carrie Oleg Cusack, representing the AIS Boundary Waters Collaborative. Take it away, Carrie.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Tina. Hello, my name is Carrie Oleg Cusack. I'm a member of the Burnside Lake Association as well as Minnesota Lakes and Rivers. I'm here with Liz Anderson of Lake County Soil and Water Conservation District and John Utek from North St. Louis Soil and Water Conservation District. And we're here to talk about the value of partnerships in leading and organizing to create positive change. And we will be talking about our group, specifically the Aquatic Invasive Species Boundary Waters Collaborative. From this point on, we'll just refer to it as ABC because it's a mouthful. And our focus is prevent the further spread of AIS into the two main watersheds that lead into the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, with the ultimate goal of keeping the Boundary Waters free of additional AIS. So to give you a little bit of background in forming the partnerships, in 2015, members of the Burnside Lake Association, I'm part of that, learned our lake was infested with a spiny water flea. And at that point in time, few of us were familiar with the spiny, let alone aquatic invasive species. We began to reach out to the DNR and MACERC for better understanding, as well as to plan to prevent additional AIS in our lake. But we quickly realized that Burnside Lake, that focusing primarily on Burnside Lake wouldn't be effective since the waters are so connected in our area and that there's a great deal of boat traffic among the lakes. So we began to talk to other organizations we thought might have an interest in dealing with the problem. And in short order, we had other lake associations, Lake and St. Louis County Soil and Water, the City of Ely, Ely Community Resource, Ely Naturalist Wildlife Forever, and many others involved in thinking about solutions and preventing the further spread of AIS into the greater Ely area. So we worked together on plans to attack the problem. And when state funding administered through the counties became available, we began a program of boat inspections, decon stations, and education awareness that continues to this day. So then in 2020, the AIS Boundary Waters Collaborative was formed. It's a group of us realized there was a big gap in our program relating to the boundary waters. And while the Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service, does a great job managing the boundary waters, we felt preventing the spread of AIS into the boundary waters required a comprehensive prevention plan focusing on preventing AIS into the two main watersheds. That's the Rainy River and Superior, which spans across 3 counties. This group includes many of the people organizations that worked on the Ely issues, but also includes new organizations, including the DNR, the Forest Service, Cook County Soil and Water, 1854 Treaty Authority, and Minnesota Lakes and Rivers. We invited Jeff Forster of Minnesota Lakes and Rivers to the formation meeting because of his experience in leading and organizing in related water issues in the state. Jeff agreed to lead the group. Okay, let me go on to my next page. With his experience and understanding working with the principles of civic organizing. And through this group, we developed a mission statement, as you can see, our ABC purpose, and a set of goals we plan to achieve. And so you can see the mission statement and the ABC purpose and the focus for organizing listed as on the screen. And as well, you can see the civic standards guides on all decision making. And a key part of the civic organizing effort is to bring together all the stakeholders who are impacted by AIS in the Boundary Waters and those that may be impacted by any proposed solutions. We have reached out to various stakeholder groups through a series of roundtable discussions. And through these many discussions, we received a lot of great feedback on possible courses of actions. We've broadened our level of support, and we've outlined possible obstacles we may have to overcome. So I am going to turn this over to Liz and to John to talk about their experience with the various AIS initiatives and partnerships.
So as you can see, and what Carrie kind of alluded to already, this group has a number of different partners, and we purposely did that just so we can get the thoughts, ideas, and potential projects across many different groups. It goes all the way up from federal agencies, state agencies, local community groups, lake associations, all the way down to just interested parties involved with protecting the boundary waters. And this is really vital also in the implementation of projects. A lot of the boundary waters areas is owned and operated by the state and federal agencies. So getting them involved early and often with the projects that we were proposing is key to streamline the process and determine right off the bat if it's something that's feasible and even workable project to go through. So looking at the North St. Louis soil and water area in specific, we really like this group because it helps us expand on projects and programs that we already have in place. As we know, AIS does not play nice to governmental lines, and the watersheds are really what dictate the movement of some of these infestations. So being able to work with our different partners across these boundary lines is really key. And it also allows us to work with some of the partners we really don't get to collaborate with a lot in our general day-to-day activities. So if you look at that map, the yellow kind of dots are the areas where we already have been doing watercraft inspections, heavily focusing our AIS prevention efforts because we find those to be most susceptible to new AIS infestations. And you'll see that some of them even cross into Lake County, where we have some partnerships already going. But the ABC work allows us to expand to the areas that we really haven't been able to focus on. And it really allows this group to get to some areas and expand our educational opportunities. And I'm sure Liz will talk more about what's already been accomplished. But you can see we use this group to really broaden our focus and even solidify some of the areas that we've already been working on previous. And then the blue dots are just some future projects that this group has planned down the pipeline. Again, fortifying some of the areas and even expanding into some new regions that we haven't had the opportunity to put AIS prevention efforts at.
Yeah, so I would just echo everything that John just said. It's true for Lake County as well. But also, some things that are kind of specific to the way we think about this group and how it works with our AIS prevention plan is, for one thing, the Boundary Waters makes up about 30% of our county by area, and the watershed, the Rainy River headwaters, makes up close to 60% of our county. So it's a big chunk of the area that we are servicing anyway. And so, you know, having more input from partners and other people that are thinking about the same issue really helps us be better at what we're doing and be more effective with our work. And so that's why I have that leadership, time, knowledge, constituency, and dollars. That those are, you know, some of the things that that are expected of the members of this group to contribute, one or all of those things. So that's what we can offer to the group, and that's what the group helps for our. That's how it helps for our program as well. And then one specific example of something that we've done. So I may have presented on this in the past, so I won't go into too much depth, but we worked on a sign project with Minnesota Sea Grant and Doug Jensen when he was there, and North St. Louis Soil and Water Conservation District. And we did an inventory of all the public water accesses in the Arrowhead region, and you know, discovered where we were missing AIS signs, and so that was a big undertaking in 2020 when, you know, we weren't doing a whole lot of in-person programming, and then from that we used that information, and Doug actually came up with an idea for, you know, producing a sign that was specific to non-motorized boat users, and with a watershed message for, you know, specific actions they should take at the access, so that we could fill in those gaps and make a very specific call to action for folks. Yeah. All right. Next slide. And then just kind of in general, we are just kind of starting out, as Carrie said, but, you know, since its inception, we've been working on building relationships, and that's both between the group and stakeholders, and also, you know, between the group and other decision makers like the Forest Service. We've been a consistent forum. We've been meeting monthly, except, you know, sometimes in the summer when we're very busy, for expressing our ideas, concerns, and opportunities for collaboration. So it's been nice to have a very consistent and reliable time to meet and share ideas. And then we have the projects that we've completed so far, like the sign project. We put out a newsletter last year. There was a mailing promoting the Take the Pledge site. We've distributed AIS materials to the Chamber of Commerce, and we've been active in other groups outside of ours to kind of, you know, influence this area and the AIS issue where we can. And Carrie, I think we're back to you.
Great, thanks, Liz. Okay, so currently we're working on preparing a proposal to respond to the America the Beautiful Grant Challenge sometime this spring. And the DNR will be our lead applicant. And we are looking for funding and placing self-service boat cleaning stations in about 30 locations. When I say boat cleaning stations, boat cleaning machines and toolbar stations at the highest use access points on the lakes in the two watersheds that lead into the Boundary Waters. And in addition to the stations and toolbars, we're developing, along with Wildlife Forever, a robust educational program to make people aware of the stations, how to use the equipment, and the benefit of keeping AIS out of the Boundary Waters. So there are two principal challenges we need to overcome with this proposal. And that is really, how do we get people to recognize the importance of cleaning their boats? And that's including canoes and kayaks, fishing gear, bait buckets before entering the lakes. And when they arrive at access points that have this equipment, the boat cleaning equipment and toolbars, how do we make sure they recognize what this is and recognize the self-cleaning equipment as a valuable resource? And how do we ensure action? So those are things we're working on right now. So that's it. And if anyone has any questions, please ask away. Oh, and thank you there, or you can email us, as John just indicated. Thank you.
Thank you all for your great presentations. We do have some time for questions. If anybody would like to unmute themselves or ask the questions in the chat. Let's see who's up here. People. Nick.
Hi, I'm the treasurer of the Association of Cass County Lakes, and I can get your email addresses and send you the pictures and some documentation on the AIS cleaning signs and tools that we've installed. We have a goal of completing 100 stations this year. Steve Henry, who is up next as a speaker, can speak about it as well. Let me know if you have any questions after I send it to you.
Excellent. We'd love to see what you've done. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, so whatever you have, send it on over.
The cost ended up to be about $105 per location.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Anybody else have any other questions?
Carrie and John and Liz, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the outfitter workshops that you just held a little bit more, because I think that would be of interest to a lot of people on this call.
Great. Liz, you want to start on that?
Sure. Well, specific to this grant that we're applying for, although we've done roundtable events in the past as well, but this one was focused on getting feedback on our ideas for the proposal. So we invited area outfitters, bait shops, couple resorts, community groups. The U.S. Forest Service was there. Number of camps. So we have a number of, like there's the Boy Scout camp, there's Voyager Outward Bound School. So a lot of folks that are actively, either out in the wilderness or have clients that go out into the wilderness. And yeah, we had 2 roundtables, and we kind of presented what we're working on and just kind of opened up the floor for them to give feedback. And they had a lot of great ideas. So we took a lot on board and are going to kind of go through that. And there's a lot that we can implement even outside of our grant. So yeah, I think that was a really good opportunity and another option for folks to pursue.
I would agree.
Another question along that, how did you get people to come?
Food.
Food, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, we offered different days of the week. We offered 2 options, different days, same time, lunchtime. And that did, I think that was quite beneficial. But we chose not to do it around wine and cheese. We didn't want people driving after having a glass of wine. So coffee and lunch, I think, was a good option. But I really felt people that attended felt heard and were very comfortable in expressing their ideas. And we will continue to include them in conversations. And like Liz said, we've had other roundtables. Some have also attended this event, and some were brand new. But I really think we expanded some support. We broadened our support after these 2 roundtables.
Yeah, we did get a lot of great feedback at both of the focus groups and testimonials, so that both of them ran over just a little bit in time because people had so much to share.
Yeah, exactly, Doug. Thank you.
Any other questions? Still got a couple minutes. If somebody has a burning question, don't be shy.
This is Sharon Natzel from Hubbard County Coalition of Lake Associations.
Hey, Sharon.
And hi, my question is, how did you get the roundtable started to discuss? Did you have them like use like little Post-it notes and jot down ideas, or did they just like blurt them out, or like how to get it started?
Well, if Doug chime in here, but
Yep.
we had given them, when we sent out an invitation, we gave them a little overview on what our group is all about and what we expected in the meeting, expected in the sense of the discussion points. So people came with the understanding of the topic, and just as Doug asked specific questions as well, but it really just, we talked about what our proposal was, and we're looking for input on how to implement it and how to communicate with the community about what we were doing. So people came quite prepared, I felt.
Yeah, they really did. And we did set up a set of questions that we were going to ask, and the main purpose there was to try to standardize the questions between both of the focus groups. But as it turns out, they were already fairly knowledgeable. We didn't even have to ask them many of the questions because many of the answers had already come out in the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a few things that we did ask about that we specifically wanted to know about them.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll just add my personal thoughts. Again, I thought the focus groups went very well. I'll also say that I think the way we held the focus groups could be easily modeled and used in other areas of of the state of Minnesota to cover similar type of topics and in similar types of jurisdictions. Any final thoughts from our speakers?
No, but you know what? Someone in the chat wants Liz and John's email address. So maybe you want to put that back up on the screen, John, or you can just type it into the chat.
Thanks, Carrie.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Not seeing or hearing any other questions, we can move on. We're a couple minutes ahead, which is always great. Steve Henry is our next speaker. Steve, are you ready to talk about community-based AIS detection efforts? Take it away when you're ready. Your screen is showing fine.
Good, and you can hear me now?
And we can hear you. Go for it.
Wonderful, thanks, Doug. Yeah, I'm Steve. I'm the Cass County AIS Lake Technician. And I guess in the title there, I noticed it said community-based AIS detection. And maybe that's what we expected as an outcome out of these projects. What we got was a lot more, and that's why I put detection and outreach in here. And all what we got was a lot more, but just a little bit of background. Cass County, our motto is still more to explore. I've been here for almost a year, and I can say that that is absolutely true. We're 78 miles north to south. Lake Finder says we have 410 lakes, only 21 infested lakes, which is a big notable for us. And that's one thing we're trying to stress this year is 90% of our lakes are not infested in Cass County. Even statewide DNR has that number. Got 133 public accesses on 110 lakes and 56 lake associations in our COLA. And I'll kind of refer back to those later too as to why those are important numbers for us. So first one is the AIS detectors. Now that's a program through UMN Extension. They kind of have three different delivery methods. There's the community member, all virtual. Do have an all virtual program for AIS professionals. And then the one we've been using is there's a community in-person workshop. There's still virtual learning with that, but then we do get everyone together, up to 25 people for a full day for a workshop. And we really feel that's the best one. Now, why do we really like these programs? Of course, it's all professionally developed. U of M Extension sends a presenter for the workshop. People have self-paced online content to kind of get ready. And then the big things that really are payoffs for us is that it develops kind of a community cohort. Now, it can be pretty easy to be the lake advocate for AIS on your lake association and feel kind of isolated and lonely. But once you've networked with a bunch of other people, we actually have 62 AIS detectors in Cass County. Once they get to know each other, they feel much more enabled. So now there's a knowledge base there that they can rely on. We used to get a lot of requests for presentations. I'd love if someone could come and talk about this. I just don't know enough to really talk about this. After these trainings, often our AIS detectors feel free to present at their lake association or stand up and advocate for a position or for a line of action. So we also get a framework for action. Continuing education and engagement for people to keep them feeling like they're not alone in this. There's things they can do. They're knowledgeable individuals, and they advocate to their neighbors. So kind of the three different programs in a quick go through. The all virtual for community members. Now, if they sign up on their own, it's $150. There's about 8 hours that they go through before they schedule for the workshops. Once they schedule for the workshops, they have about 2 hours in pre-workshop activities to get done. And then they have workshops. Real easy, probably equips people, but we find that people really like that cohort where they get to know people, get to come in and attend the workshop in person. There is an annual volunteer service and education requirements. So this is much like most of the other extension master naturalist, master gardener programs, where they want to keep you engaged, keep learning, and keep using what you've learned out there on the ground. AIS professionals, I've only been in the position for about a year now. Definitely something I might consider too. $200 per person. Now, both of these, they do scholarships available if cost is an issue. But again, about 8 hours is self-guided virtual, and then 3-hour workshops. They do include additional modules to help learn about invasive wetland plants and management of those. Now, again, the one that we have really used and we're planning for another one this year is the community in-person AIS detectors course. It's $3,000 to the local partner. You can choose to charge out to people if you want. We have done it where the county pays 2/3 of that. The local lake coalition pays $1,000 and they provide food. We use a county building because you do want to have 2 large separate rooms, one set up classroom style, where everyone faces up towards the screen for the extension professional to present, and then another one set up with tables and materials so that people can work through identification of plants, invertebrates, fish. Again, there's still the same virtual 8 hours of self-guided and the 2 pre-workshop hours, and then about a 6-hour in-person workshop. Professional one, of course, you're a professional. You're not expected to do any volunteer service in education. But I have found the educational materials to be very good, not just in their own, but with the discussion that occurs with all the other AIS detectors around each element. So again, real easy to feel isolated. You got hundreds of lakes, 57 lake associations. You get to meet people that have the same interests, learn kind of the same materials, have the same working base of knowledge. All of our AIS detectors keep in contact with each other independently and through the Hector Connector, which is a monthly online meeting presentation. Lately, there's been AIS Explorer, PI Charter, and the upcoming one is a refresher on EdMaps. So Really a lot of good information. And then again, the discussion that occurs alongside those, we have gotten just tons of great ideas. So people leave this, they feel equipped that they can do outreach to their neighbors. We have a group that's starting a program with the local youth camp. So they've come and they've gotten a lot of these same materials, crayfish, zebra mussels, aquatic plant, invasive plant specimens, and we also gave them native plant specimens so that they can engage the youth in how to find AIS, what to do about AIS, how to properly clean, drain, and dry. Really, some of these have been our biggest highlights. So we thought we were just going to have people to help us on early detection. It turned out it turns into a whole network of people equipped to do outreach, willing and able. Again, there's a framework for action. What might you do? When might you do it? Who might you do it with? So here we have a pair of AIS detectors out. I just noticed today that the boat really dates from a whole nother generation, but gathering plant samples, identifying them. So our eDNA volunteers locally were our AIS detectors. We have people that search for spiny water flea, they're AIS detectors. We have people that put out zebra mussel samplers, people that have called in that pontoon that launched and they're pretty sure there's zebra mussels on it and someone needs to come out and take a look. Again, they're the AIS detectors. They feel they have the knowledge base to act. Education and engagement component. Really, again, this has been one of our biggest takeaways is the discussions that go around about these items, different viewpoints. I often have been sending out my outreach materials to my AIS detectors and saying, could you read through this? Could you look at the handout? These are the messages I want to send. Of course, I look at everything a certain way. We have healthcare, financial, business. We got Nick from the business sector. People all see materials differently, and getting that second set of eyes on there to help design that material so you're really reaching your audience. Again, most of these AIS detectors are the audience we're trying to reach out there to the most part. So the benefits to the program, really, there hasn't been that many challenges. It was pretty easy to implement, and that's why we're planning a new one this spring. We're also going to open that one up. We're going to host it closer to Crow Wing County. We like to provide that to the Crow Wing County residents also. Again, AIS does not follow LGU boundaries, as John pointed out. We might as well engage a community that's a little wider. We do get early detection out of this, which helps us plan and monitor management activities. But we also have the AIS detectors working with their lake associations that are often planning their own management activities. And the detectors can say, you know, that what we've been doing with Eurasian milfoil hasn't really worked. Maybe we need to think about doing something differently. Do we want to keep throwing our money at certain efforts? Again, they provided really quality outreach out there, has cut back on the demands on the staff here to try and get out to every lake association meeting and do an AIS presentation. They often are updating their lake association on what is the most recent thing, either eDNA or what was at the showcase. We were at the mayor's showcase, and these are the things they're working on. And I guess the highlight I get out of this is that they're educated instigators. So again, Nick mentioned the tool station and sign that came out of the county COLA group, that came out of the AIS detectors. Some other really good ones. We had 2 adjoining lakes, and the question I got back was, well, what about the upstream downstream connection? Geez, that isn't something I had really thought about in positioning inspectors. I had just given you guys equal numbers of hours. That's true. Maybe we need to look at the one lake is upstream from the other lake, helping us schedule based around fishing tournaments. We get so many good ideas that come in from our AIS detectors, just that second set of eyes, a whole different viewpoint. And so people often say, gee, you guys are up to so many innovative things. Well, that's not necessarily coming from the program. It's coming from our community cohort that we've developed, is really looking at things with 62, 64 sets of eyes and saying, there's probably a different way we could do this. We have upstream uninfested lakes and downstream infested lakes. One that one of our detectors came up with was a clean your boat sign between the two lakes. So we have those in position now, and we're looking at what other lakes should we have these signs at so that people know that we don't want to transport the zebra mussels upstream, which to date has not occurred. So really, it's been a huge benefit, well beyond what our initial inkling was for what might we get out of having our own cohort of AIS detectors. I guess we're going for more than 100 sign installations. We're going for more than 100 local AIS detectors too. And we are going to invite some of them back so that the existing cohort, if we do fill up this new workshop, can come in and meet the new cohort and kind of that community on board, kind of get those connections established so that we don't just have groups going off and not being as well connected as we would like. I will get into how do we track what they're doing, because we're dovetailing that now into our Adopt a Harbor program, is how might we know what people are out there getting done for as far as AIS detectors. We also get calls from them as far as algae blooms, fish kills, lots of things that we can't see in a county this big, that they are the local eyes and ears out there to let us know what's going on. Program, and this is one that Dana Gutzman got going after we initially had a detection of starry stonewort in Leech Lake, way up in the northwest corner of the lake map here, and in one of the harbors we had a starry stonewort detection, and it was just dominates the harbor and a small area in front of it, but we couldn't find it anywhere else. With 2 AIS detectors, Dana went out and they searched 45 harbors. Now this is a DNR provided map of some of the harbors on Leech Lake, and there's a lot of dots out there, but in an LCCMR study we did locally, I didn't do, but it was through our office, they counted 172 harbors on Leech Lake, 157 active harbors, 67 harbors with boat ramps. The harbor where there's starry stonewort, there's 3 boat ramps. So there's a lot of area out there to cover and to know what's going on. We haven't found starry stonewort well, we did find it in a second harbor just around the bend now, just last year. John Eaton, one of our detectors, actually spurred me. He had heard of a report there. Again, local eyes and ears. He knew the resort owner. He set up the time for us to go out there, got his permission to check. And we went out, we found a small tabletop size area of starry stonewort. So now we can plan that in with our ongoing management activities we have in the other harbor. So we're engaging resort owners to check their own harbors. And again, initially this was we're going to do detection so we can respond, but what about education? We're also getting the resort owners coasters, signage, grabbers, DNR signs, bait bags. We were delivering coasters to bars and restaurants all over. We realized that if you're out at the lake, you're probably out at the resort for maybe a week. We can get the resort coasters. They can put them in the cabins. You go into the resort's bait shop, you get a bait bag that says AIS. You go in the fish cleaning station. There's signs on the walls about AIS. So our next jump is going to be the dock hands. Even my boys now are looking at being dock hands for this summer. The resorts have started to hire. So these people help you launch your boat, help you land your boat. They often know if you're going to head to another lake for the day. So these, again, are our own better messengers. They can message with the resort users better than we can as county staff. You know, you're jumping to another lake today. Hey, did you know that 90% of Cass County lakes don't have any AIS? Well, we do have zebra mussels in Eurasian milfoil and leech lakes. So it's really important today to get your boat clean. If you could take it out one day ahead of time at least and let it dry off, that's going to do a lot of good. And if you'd like to take another step, we have marine partners. So we have businesses in the area that have hot pressure washers that can hot wash a boat, and we reimburse them for every boat that they do. We've actually had really good success with that. Found some resorts on Cass Lake where there's also starry stonewort that they have their own hot water washer, and they said, hey, we would love to wash boats. You wouldn't even have to reimburse us, but it's just something we would do as people are coming out, and talk to them about, you know, make sure you're going to be out 5 days before you go in another lake. Don't let things hitchhike home with you. So Adopt a Harbor again came out as kind of a early detection. How do we make it so that we don't have to go to all these harbors next year again and search? It took a lot of time. We'll engage them at the Chamber of Commerce Resort Show into checking their own harbor, which now this year the Resort Show said, do you want to present on Adopt a Harbor again? How would you like to do this? Do you want to have handout materials? And we went with food and drink, just like the ABC group. We said, can we host a refreshment room? We know that people often need to get away from the booth for a little bit, get a water bottle, get a snack, get a soda. We'd love to host a little refreshment room off to the side as a thank you for the efforts they put out for us and as a way to engage more resorts. So Adopt a Harbor is really growing. We're also getting a lot of private harbors. And I know where some of those are, and I don't see the dots on here. So again, this is the permitted DNR harbors on Leech Lake, but we did have 157 active harbors in the study the other year. So in this program, AIS detectors get a AIS detection booklet. We took some materials from that booklet and made our own laminated handouts so that they would have something they could use as a guide out on site. Common natives, this is one page. It's got the starry stonewort because that's kind of our bugger locally. Doesn't seem to spread fast either within the lake or from lake to lake, but it's definitely hard to manage once you have it somewhere. So it does seem containable. So this is one we're really focusing on and working on as far as how can we best manage starry stonewort, especially because it often pops up immediately adjacent to boat ramps. Even if you just have a tabletop size patch, as we do in the Hiawatha Beach Harbor, it is immediately adjacent to the boat ramp and it wants to hop on to trailers. These little bulbils want to hop into the propeller hub where there's a nice little cup of water in there. I didn't realize with my new garage, I got to tip the motor down to get the boat in. There's a water that hides in that hub and you really got to tip it down to be careful. So we give them a laminated guide. We give them a rake. We used to give them paper sheets to report, and now we give them a handout that has links. We also email that handout, and we tell people to bookmark the link when they first use it. Now, this Survey 123, we set up a little reporting window on ArcGIS Map Viewer. We set up a window where people can see the reports that come in. So when they go to Survey 123, it has the date, it autofills. If you allow it your location, it will zoom right into the lake you're at. People can select the lake, the type of access they're at, resort, other, click a negative if they want. If they click positive, you can take pictures right there, or you can have pictures that you add, and then they can put in comments at the bottom. Only takes minutes, and we've had a lot of interest in this from other counties, especially Hubbard County, and then North St. Louis also, John. I know Vermilion, I think they said they had 40 different AIS detectors working on the lake, and they're just not sure who's gotten to what area. So it turns out that anyone in the state can use our reporting map. This is kind of an image from it. We were using green and red dots. We're thinking about going to just blue dots and having it email us when people put in a positive. And that way AIS detectors wouldn't have to worry. I'm over on Lake Beltane near Nevis, which is just to the left and down from Leech Lake there, and there's 16 detectors on Beltane. So again, how do you know who's been out where? I can click on any one of these dots. It'll show me the date, the location, and the pictures. One thing we're looking at doing is adding an email slot so we can say thank you to these people, maybe even put them into a drawing. Really easy to set up, really easy to manage actually. So we're looking at improvements. We're going to adopt a resort because we're getting resorts not on Leech that don't have harbors, adopt and access. We really like Hubbard County's Eyes on the Water. We're looking for another that makes people feel like I can do this off my dock, and it fits right in with what we're doing. Again, getting emails so we can newsletter people and talk about all the good work they're doing, how many different sites we've been done, and then with the resorts, how do we reciprocate on this effort? What kind of benefits can we provide them? We're thinking epoxy fish cleaning tabletops. Lots of these resorts have, 8x8, 4x8 fish cleaning tables. Can we embed AIS messaging in tabletops so that we really get it? Lake hopping is fun. Please take your boat out the day before. Don't let AIS hitchhike. We have a partnership grant program. We'd like to make that available to resorts. And then can we market with the resorts like the 5-star lake providers that we have, where we promote those lake providers out to lake associations? And then what sorts of educational opportunities can we give that fit in with the demands of the resort people? So we'd like to get to those dock boys and tell them why this is so important and how to message it out to the resort users when they're hopping out to another lake. Well, remember, 90% of our lakes don't have AIS, so don't let them hitchhike on your boat. If you could let it sit in the sun. Otherwise, please visit one of our resort partners. We have a map with a QR code that will link people in with that. They can also then link right to DNR's decon page and find a decon unit that they could use. So questions and contacts. U of M Extension runs the Aquatic Invasive Species Detector Program, and it, of course, clipped the link down to this handy little link that you guys don't know how to follow, but you can Google AIS UMN and it'll take you right to it. Otherwise, there's their email and my email. It looks different when you're in the meeting from my end here, Doug, but if anyone has any questions, comments on how we could make this together better, again, it's been way beyond what we would have anticipated. Both programs, AIS detectors, the resorts love to get us in now with our materials. They're completely on board. And then the ideas we get from our detectors have made our program 300% better. So.
Thank you so much, Steve. That's an excellent presentation. I just want to bring up one thing before I open it up to other people ask questions, is that I did have an intern that put together how to approach Dock Boy and Dock Girls and getting them to integrate AIS into their outreach at the accesses at resorts. It probably needs to be freshened up, but I'd be happy to share that with you if I can find it. Any questions or comments for Steve? Maybe Steve, I should have asked you, do you have materials for dock boys and girls to kind of standardize the training?
No, and again, that's one of those where you almost have to go to the audience, where I'm almost going to have to work with my 2 boys who are of that age, and see what they uptake.
Right. Yep.
Does this
see
work
what
for
works
you
and what
guys?
doesn't work. Yeah.
Right. Well, I can't imagine saying that to a guy with a 24-foot Vesta boat with a 200 horse motor on it. So how do you build them up to carry your own message, and really make them understand that you're a better messenger for you than you are for yourself,
200 horse motors, pretty small these days. I was on to the Duluth Boat Show and there were lots of boats down there with 400s. Holy cow.
And that
All right.
stirs the stormwater bubbles right off the lake bottom, so.
Getting some nice compliments in the chat there, Steve. Anybody have any other comments, questions for Steve? Still got a couple minutes here. Last chance for grilling. All right, well, we're right at 1:55. I'm not seeing any hands up for questions. So let's move on. Again, thank you very much, Steve, for your presentation. Really appreciate it. So next up, we have Susanna Wilson-Witkowski from Chisago County, working with local enforcement on AIS issues. Susanna, take it away when you're ready.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen here, so hopefully you can all hear me. And great.
Yep.
Thank you for being able to talk about working with the County Sheriff's Office. Again, I'm Susanna, Water Resource Manager for the county, managing the AIS program and other county-wide water planning programs. And Camden Droppo, our AIS specialist, is also on the call today, and he works with the AIS education and outreach, early detection programs, and training the watercraft inspectors. And so I just wanted to just kind of familiarize everyone with Chisago County if you're not familiar with the location. We're located just north of the Twin Cities, and the St. Croix River is on the eastern edge of the county. We have major lakes areas in the northern and southern part of the county as well. And before I talk about working with law enforcement, I just want to mention, give an overview of our AIS program. And so we do both watercraft inspections, and we have a decontamination unit that we rotate at the busy accesses. We do outreach and education, early detection, and then with the working with the law enforcement to enforce the state AIS laws and statutes. And so each year, to start out with our early detection programs, each year we work with Wild Rivers Conservancy and the National Park Service to do zebra mussel veliger and spiny water flea monitoring. We have one lake in the county that has zebra mussels. We hope that continues for many years. We're not finding either of the veligers or spiny water fleas in any of the other lakes. So it's one of our programs. We also do what we call Zebra Mussel Watch, where we have volunteers put the monitoring plates on their docks. So again, we're not finding zebra mussels since the year that we started, 2019. And new this year, we started what we call the Fall Zebra Mussel Check, where we have homeowners check their docks and lifts when they pull them out at the end of the season for zebra mussels. Again, just trying to have multiple ways to do that early detection and monitoring. We also have what we call the water access monitoring, checking 16 of the public water accesses for a variety of invasive species. So we do that once a month from May to September. And what's nice is that we also bring in our watercraft inspectors if they happen to be working a shift when we're out, Camden is out and about checking the accesses. They're able to do that inspection along with them. So just trying to give the inspectors another opportunity for different types of work, and then also to learn more and about different, invasive species, and look at not only invasive, but look at the native species as well. And then we're also involved with Starry Trek, working with Wild Rivers Conservancy. They will put on that program for us, of course, through the state. But we have kind of a core group of volunteers that have been returning these past 5 years. We've been participating in Starry Trek. Again, another way to keep an eye out, not only on starry stonewort, but all other possible invasive species. Communication and education. We really try to get out into the community. Last year, we were able to participate in 24 different AIS events. So that included having information at bait shops, having tables at different festivals, participating in parades, presenting at community groups. And the county has a children's water festival, so we have 2 different AIS related stations at our children's water festival. So really trying to just reach out to adults, continue to reach out to children as well. And another new activity, and a lot of these ideas, including Voter Appreciation Day, came from attending a previous DNR AIS session. So thank you all for this. But we had participated in now Voter Appreciation Day. Camden's able to go out to the Access on one particular weekend and have our AIS display and prize wheel, and just thank voters for the work that they're doing preventing the spread of AIS, and to give away some of the handouts that we have, and just different materials. And then one other, that we try to reach out to different lake associations and provide workshops on different invasive species that they are interested in. We work with Wild Rivers Conservancy on this workshop, give information, have guest speakers about specific topics, best management practices, what are some ways that they can effectively manage and treat specific invasive species. And we also work with EOR on completing point intercept surveys. We'll pick a different lake each year. Now this year, at least in the northern part of the county, we will be going back to kind of the first lakes that we started on in 2017. So we'll really be able to see, are there any changes in the different community within those specific lakes. So that's kind of been our goal. It's taken us several years to get through those northern lakes, but just over time, we're hoping we're not seeing too many changes with our native plant communities. And then invasive Phragmites. This is a concern, very much so a concern in the county, as Chisago County has 20% of the invasive Phragmites populations in the state. So we have a planning team. We're working with the U of M, Julia Bonin, on addressing and identifying and mapping invasive Phragmites and finding ways to treat it countywide. And then our watercraft inspections. So again, this is the map of the county. We have 24 public water accesses. I'm amazed when I am in the different presentations and I hear some of the counties have 80, 100 public water accesses. I'm not sure how you do it. 24, it's enough to keep up with. But that's what we do. We have over 15,000 inspections each year, and again, we really want to have watercraft inspectors do as many inspections they can at all of the lakes in the county, but of course at those that are the busiest, as you can see on kind of the left-hand side of the chart. And then we have our decontamination unit. We have something called Decontamination Blitz, where our level 2 inspectors will be out on the stationed at the accesses along the St. Croix River at a specific weekend in the county, partnering with the DNR and Wild Rivers Conservancy on making that specific blitz weekend happen. And then with our decontamination unit, we've had as many as 200 decontaminations a year. So the numbers changed. Last year it was 65 total. And so we try to reach out and do as many courtesy decontaminations as possible as well. And now getting into the working with law enforcement section. So thank you for being able to give that overview. There are 3 key things that we have in place for enforcement of AIS laws in the county. And that is funding for overtime inspections, for the sheriff's office to work overtime to provide inspections at the accesses, training for law enforcement, and then having an existing and dedicated county sheriff's water patrol division. And without all of those 3, I'm not sure how the AIS enforcement would work. And since 2015, the county has provided, thank you to the AIS prevention funding, $8,000 to $10,000 each year for overtime, for the Sheriff's Patrol overtime. It's been part of that program since it was, developed. And prior to my time, I started with the county actually in 2015, but then this process was set up by then. So then we also host DNR training for law enforcement, or the Sheriff's Office will send their officers to the specific Sheriff's Office DNR AIS training. So I'm just going to show, this is a flyer from when the original DNR enforcement training was established back in 2015. But over time we've reached out to the DNR staff to schedule any other, or to send those officers to their specific training. And then another key piece to working with law enforcement has been that the officers are there if our watercraft inspectors need any assistance with the boaters. The Water Patrol Division officers, they are patrolling the accesses, which is great. They will do their patrols when, unscheduled, when an inspector is working, in addition to when they are doing their kind of scheduled overtime shifts. But we've had many other instances where the inspectors have to call the Sheriff's Office because there's an issue at the access and they need their assistance. If a boater had launched when AIS was attached, they needed help, there's some other issue or safety issue at the access, they're there for us and to help us. So we do not have a formal agreement with the Sheriff's Office to do this work. Again, this was something that was, kind of established in 2014 and 2015 when the county started, county-wide inspections. But I know I have seen sample agreements. There's one that I have from Dakota County, and I can kind of pull it up on the screen. I'm not sure if it will show, but there are agreements available to use as examples, and it could be a time when Chisago County, when we might have to have a similar type of agreement. And then another key piece that we have with our Sheriff's Office is something we call the safety and policy procedures. And this is a list of kind of safety steps. It was something that I worked with the Sheriff's Office back in 2019. And it's for inspectors to follow if there are any safety issues at the access. They need help. There's conflict between different boaters, or conflict between the inspectors and a boater, lots of different things that can happen. So we came up with these steps to show them, okay, this is what you can do if you're not feeling safe. And let's see if might have to move this. And this is the document, our safety steps, and then all the other different policies, the expectations for the position. And I know I'll be talking about this in more detail at the meeting, the watercraft inspection meeting on March 7th also. So I won't go into too much detail now. But we'll just pull back the presentation here. And then, so those kind of three key things to have in place with working with the Sheriff's Office. And then I just wanted to share statistics. I have some statistics from 2023 and then kind of compare and contrast to 2020. And 2020, by far, that was the busiest boating season that we have ever seen. And that year, the Sheriff's Office, they had inspected 419 boats and trailers, and they worked 157 hours. Issued 26 warnings and 1 citation for transporting aquatic vegetation, working a total of 27 shifts. And so we kind of see a variety of different officers work each year. Sometimes kind of the same officers will come back each year. We'll see kind of new ones. So they're just a handful, maybe between 8 and 10, that will do those overtime shifts each year. And last year with statistics, there were, they inspected 154 boats and trailers, working 120 hours, and there were 37 total overtime shifts. And they did not issue any citations, but issued 23 warnings. And of those, 4 were AIS or drain plug specific. So they're seeing a lot of different things at the accesses beyond just AIS. And what happens at the end of the season, the sheriff's officers, they'll submit a report, and what the summary is of the AIS activity that happened, and then they'll submit their sheriff's deputy logs along with their patrol logs that will show exactly what the written warnings or verbal warnings were for. And then the registration number. So they'll keep those different logs and they'll send that to us. So we're able, to see what's happening during all of those shifts. And I'm just going to try to pull up my screen again here. Let's see. So I know there are some questions in the chat. And and this is just a chart then showing our warnings and citations, but I'm really kind of at the end. I think I'm done early here, but overall, we're just very lucky to have this partnership working with the Water Patrol Division. As the lakes and the rivers, with every county, they're very important to Chisago County. And let's see, I think I can stop sharing my screen, and if you want to, if we want to open it up to any questions, we could.
Thank you so much, Susanna. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any questions?
I can read them from the chat, Doug.
Go for it, Tina. Thank you.
So Emily Gable with Dakota County is happy to share her agreement with anyone who is interested. So maybe Emily, if you could put your email in the chat, people can contact you that way. And then any tips on how to get your sheriff's office to be part of this? It's been something we've been working on for years. And this is from Jessica with Crow Wing County. So any tips on getting the sheriff's office on board?
Right. I think the main thing is just, reaching out. When we had issues with safety issues at the accesses, granted, we had kind of that already established relationship, but not with inspections, but not on safety, and not how do you address it? There were things that we thought would be beneficial that they just did not recommend, like having pepper spray. No, that's not something that they recommended, but until you reach out, you don't really know what the answers are. And finding that right person as well. That helps. So thanks. I think that overall, that would be my suggestions.
And there's a handful of people on this call today that I also work with enforcement. So if there's anyone else on the call that has some tips for starting that relationship, or maybe restarting it if it has faded away in the last years or so, please do chime in now.
And I'm going to say one more thing. Also having having the overtime, paying for those overtime shifts. I see that in the chat that Emily had mentioned that. Yeah, that's key. If you're not able to provide that, you're probably not going to get them to do those overtime shifts because they wouldn't have it in their budget.
Mm-hmm.
But
Holly,
thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I work with LeSueur County. We actually utilize our sheriff's department, and it kind of just started, the relationship just started when the AIS money came out, which I know is a little unique in that sense. And I know there's different priorities for the sheriff's department as well. But I think Suzanne made a good point about the safety. I think if you can drive home that point, that's going to at least get them to be connected to it and be invested in it. But additionally, we do, have funds set aside, and we work with them on scheduling hours and whatnot. But there is there is like a positive relationship on having them out there, right? They're still serving the community. They can still address safety issues, and provide a voice and provide some education and outreach. So I would just reach out to them, see if they're even willing to do, a couple 100 hours a summer. Like, it's better than nothing. And at least you have them out there, trying to promote, prevention of aquatic invasive species. And, a lot of these sheriff's departments, at least with our county, it's overtime for them, which isn't always bad, right? Like, sometimes people need it, enjoy it, whatnot. But at the same time, this isn't part of their daily job, and they know that, but they want to do it. So I think just reaching out and asking is the best thing that you can do.
Thanks, Holly. I saw Amanda's hand go up next. Go for it.
My question is how you work with them for scheduling.
Mm.
Do you ask them what hours work best for them, or you just make a list like there's the hours in this place, you can show up or not?
Yeah, Susanna. Oh, you're muted, Susanna.
I did just put an answer in the chat.
Oh, okay.
That they are picking their own shifts and accesses, just working around what is already scheduled for the other watercraft inspectors.
So you'll
We
give
don't
them
have
like
a formal.
Excuse me, I was saying, so do you give them like a weekly or a monthly schedule for the paid inspectors, and then they just make sure that they're not going to double up with where someone else is?
Right. With the paid inspectors, yes, they have scheduling every 2 weeks. And then the officers, if they are, planning to go to a certain access and someone's already on schedule, they'll go to a different access. So there really isn't there isn't a coordination between the two.
Yeah,
They're here with Otter Tail County. I just actually finished a conversation with the sheriff, not last week because I was on vacation, but the week before. We were hoping we could get a full-time deputy this summer, but we're still down. The sheriff's department is still down with staffing issues. They're trying to hire 2 or 3 more deputies right now, and it's been that case for a few months. So it's going to be a best effort. Our sheriff is on the invasive species task force, so he sees all the meeting minutes and discussions. It helps that he lives on a lake. It helps that a number of the sheriff's deputies also live on lakes that are interested in protecting the resource. A few years ago, our watercraft inspection program kind of acts like a pipeline for like strategic job career mode. So I've had a couple of inspectors that have actually went into law enforcement. One of them was a jailer for our county and different police departments. But just trying to make sure that there's like a pipeline of people that grew up with an interest in invasive species, and that becomes like a lifelong learning thing that's always sort of in their head. And it's really long term, but once you plant that seed, it starts to grow and give shade, and you reap the benefits. Also, our sheriff's deputies, I would send a copy of the schedule so that they'd see where we're going. I get a list of from the sheriff's records office, all the permits for special water events that are happening, like parties on lakes, fishing tournaments, that may be smaller than what requires DNR permitting, and I get that list. And frankly, a lot of the sheriff's deputies, as they're doing their duties, they'll pull off on public water accesses just to catch up on their paperwork. Otter Tail County, we've got 1,000 lakes. They're everywhere. Lots of them are next to major highways, so they can be multitasking while they're sitting at the public access. And just that presence of dropping in alters people's behavior in a positive way. So we make do.
Thanks, Spencer. I want to share one thing from the chat from Dan Sabulko, Sherburne County. And as he says, the relationship with the County Sheriff's Department is due to the funding available for their work, continuing to spend time towards that relationship, and providing time and resources for training. Amanda, I see your hand is up again. Go for it.
Another question on, so if a citation is given, or if they have been, do your county's attorney office, would they uphold that citation? Like, is there an agreement that, okay, a citation for an AIS law is violated? So some counties I know it wouldn't, the attorney would just dismiss it.
I'll just say, because we've been there, done that for a couple of tickets. It is really case by case and context dependent on how strong the case is. The officers have discretion on what they're going to do, what take action. The county attorney can. They have prosecutorial discretion. Judges have that. So do juries if it goes to a jury. So there's all these layers of the cake or step that have to happen to go from, you know, a criminal complaint to a conviction. And often, you know, any one of those, it could hang up at any point, for various reasons. So we've never really had to take someone to trial or, you know, send a watercraft inspector to testify. Theoretically could happen. We try and keep it down that lower level of a warning, things like that. Just meet the badge, the gun, the taser, the uniform. If they've got a canine, it's there. It's just, non-confrontational, but with a little bit of, you know, this is a little bit more serious than talking to the person with the t-shirt, right? Let's just try and, you know, get you into compliance. But yes, there is a method, if compliance cannot be reached, to escalate that, and our county attorney is committed to that.
Thanks, everyone. Doug, I'll say that we have, we're up to our break time. So shall we take a break?
We shall. Also, there are a couple other comments that were entered into the chat. So if people want to take at their leisure, take a look at those comments. So thank you again for all of our early afternoon speakers. You did a fabulous job. And thanks for all the questions and the discussion. We will take a break now and we'll reconvene at 2:30. And what steps off a week better than aquatic invasive species and beer? So please all come back in 10 minutes. We'll see you then. Thanks. All right, it is 2:30. So maybe give us a thumbs up that you're back. I know that probably everybody kept their cameras on or turned them off, but just turn them off temporarily. People are returning. Had a good turnout for the first part. We had 67 people. I think we had 64 at break, so. All right. Well, to start off this session, just wanted to introduce that we have 4 speakers, Holly, Amanda, Sarah, and Spencer, and they're all going to talk about panel on partnerships. And
Not yet, Doug.
Huh?
Amanda's
Oh, I'm
presenting
sorry.
first.
Oh, geez, I'm some step ahead. Sorry about that. Yeah, Amanda's up first. Of course she is. So Amanda Weber from Cook County is going to talk about invasive species, local brewery, and 4 EVA. Sorry about that, Amanda.
4 EVA.
Welcome.
Okay. Here, I'm coming, I promise.
There, we're seeing you in presentation mode.
Okay.
Looking
So
good.
Doug, you said 4 EVA, and it's forever.
Forever.
I didn't know what to call this, so the title is Invasive Species plus Local Brewery equals Love Forever. The background to this partnership is at UMIS 2022. I was attending virtually, and I was listening to a presentation by Sarah Stallman of Pennsylvania Sea Grant, and her presentation was on a partnership with the Erie Brewing Company, and they did the same thing. I just copied them. It was a partnership they made breweries or beers they had Sea Lamprey Lager and Mystery Snail Ale were the ones that they had made. And so I had this idea, like, I could totally do that here in Grand Marais. So I did. And this picture on the left is myself and Tia, she's wearing the Emerald Ash Borer costume. So what happened to begin it is I know the owner of the brewery, Voyager Brewing Company. She comes to my yoga classes, and it's like, I'm going to ask her. So like the next time I saw her, like a week later after the UMIS presentation, I asked her about it, and she's like, yeah, this sounds cool. Just email me and we'll make it happen. Because it's that easy up here to just make things happen. What I didn't know is that Tia had seen the same presentation and had the same idea and was asking Sue the same thing, like, hey, let's do this. So Sue thought that both of us were like doing it together, like, yeah, it's a partnership. But it took us a while to understand that Tia and I were both asking the brewery owner to do this thing. So once we all figured that out and straightened out the communication, we sat down, we met with the brewery owner 2 times. once in February and once in April. And the event was in June. We just met with her and got all the details figured out. The owner communicated with the brewery staff. They were like, yeah, boss, whatever you want to do, it's great. So we came up with 2 different names options. One was the Rusty Crazy Hazy, which was selected. Another one was Twisted Tansy, which we didn't select. So the brewery decided we're going to go with the Rusty Crazy. They made the batch. I don't know the size of it. It was just, they made, the giant barrel vat of beer. It tasted, I don't drink alcohol, so I don't really know what it tasted like, but people really liked it. It's kind of probably like a summery pale ale type. There's no crayfish that were in the beer. We didn't. We thought maybe we could like crush a little bit of a shell in there, but we decided not to. So backing up, Tia, she's the terrestrial invasives coordinator. She has a group called CCIT, Cook County Invasives Team. And that group is a partnership with the Forest Service, the DNR, the Department of Ag, MnDOT, the Highway Department. So they have, all these groups have a memorandum of understanding to prevent the spread of invasive species. So CCIT, this group, is the one that put on this event. And then me, AIS, is a part of CCIT because we're all invasive species trying to prevent the same thing. So CCIT team and I, we did all of the event marketing, went on the radio, local radio station. We had all the posters and in the newspapers and magazines. We purchased all the supplies needed for the event. So all the brewery did was make the beer, be aware that this event was happening, give us the space to have the event in their parking lot. And then we gave them materials to put out in the bar room. We had 50 pint glasses that we did for giveaway. This middle picture here is the pint glasses. There's 50 of those. They went really fast. In the first 45 minutes, 50 pint glasses were gone. We also gave the tokens of a free pint of this beer during the event. There was 168 tokens that were redeemed at the bar. Also had crayfish races in gutters, little rain gutters, and they just tried to race each other. Fish painting, where we have silicone fish that kids would paint, and then you can print them on paper. We had t-shirts and hats, and then also little rusty crayfish samples to eat. For our outcomes, we didn't have an expectation. We just started this thing. We're like, let's just try it and see what happens. And it basically, if 10 people show up to an event, I think that's a success. And we had more than 10 people show up. I mean, we had 168 pints that were reimbursed. The pint glasses went out really fast. But I think it was a success. We had it on Father's Day weekend in June. And that's also the summer solstice weekend at North House. We've been up here, so it's a pretty popular weekend. There's a lot of tourists, a lot of traffic downtown. And the location of the brewery, it's like in between, it's downtown, like where all the events happen. So there's a lot of foot traffic and people were just constantly walking by. I know how to do this, right? There we go. The challenges that we had was we didn't give ourselves enough time to set up. The event was from 3 to 6. We went there at 2:30. Like, yeah, we can just set it all up in half an hour. But people were already coming to talk to us when we got there. We still had everything in boxes and we're trying to set up the tents and put things on tables. And like the event had already started. People were just nonstop, like, what are you doing? Why are you here? What do you got? So that was the one challenge that we had. So this year we're going to set up before the brewery even opens to give us some time to like, okay, we can get this together. So these pictures, the one here on the left is the rusty crayfish that are boiled, and then they have some Cajun seasoning and some vegetables, like broth. This event, or just having food that is the same species that we're trying to highlight, was beneficial to have someone like me demonstrate, here's your crayfish, here's how you take the tail off, and here's how you eat it. It's a new experience for a lot of people. Crayfish costume, we had the crayfish here in the cooler, showing them, this is a male, surprise! And I'm going to try to show you the video that you might have seen already, the little 30-second video. After the ads.
If there's sound, Amanda,
Yeah.
we're not hearing the sound.
Tina, did you say something?
If there's sound with the video, we're not hearing the sound. We are seeing the video though.
Bummer.
If you
There's sound.
stop sharing and then share again, but select, there's a little button at the top. It says share with computer audio. That should fix the issue. And we can also put the link in the chat for people to watch later too. Oh, there, Adam already did. I can try sharing it if you'd like, Amanda.
Thank you.
Should
Okay.
we try that? All right. Let's give that a try. Give me a second as I get things pulled up here. I think I have to follow my own suggestion of sharing with audio. All right.
We're here at Voyager Brewing Company in the parking lot doing an invasive species outreach event.
We're attracting people today by bringing beer and invasive species together.
We partner with Voyager because they are launching a summer brew called Rusty Crazy Hazy to kind of promote invasive species and how important clean, healthy water is to having good quality beer. I am the Rusty Crayfish, Amanda Weberg also, doing aquatic invasive species. And then the Emerald Ash Borer over there is Tia Parks.
I am the Cook County Ag Inspector and Environment Specialist. I'm also the coordinator for the Cook County Invasives team. We've got lots of freebies and lots of great education materials.
There's Rusty Crayfish in the cooler with some hats and stickers, t-shirts. The little kids area where you can make a fish print and do a coloring activity.
What we're hoping for out of this is that people will be more aware of invasive species in our area and those outside it, so they can slow the spread.
Spread the word, not the species.
Please don't get a donkey. Thanks, Tina, for showing that. Oh, now I have to start over, apparently. Sorry, friends. So we're doing this again this year. We've already met with the brewery and we're excited to do a second event. We're highlighting purple loosestrife. There's a large patch of purple loosestrife that sprout up last year at where the city created their new garages for their maintenance equipment. for another opportunity to highlight this and to bring all the city and the mayor and county developers and just learn about purple loosestrife and why we don't want it, even though it's so beautiful. So this event is it's on Father's Day weekend. So if there's any fathers here, or if you have a father and you want to say, here's your gift, come to Grand Marais on this trip and drink this purple loosestrife beer. That'd be cool. Here's the final slide. It's a short presentation. Any questions? Discussion?
Thank you so much, Amanda. That's great. Great project. There are some questions in the chat. Let's see. The last one I'm seeing is from Emily. Is the beer going to be actually purple?
I think we're gonna make it a blueberry infused, so it will be purple. I see Ingrid asked about the costumes. So these costumes are borrowed from Liz Anderson at Lake County Soil and Water, but I'm making my own this year. I promise, Liz, I won't have to borrow them from you. So it's a lobster costume and I'm just spray painting it to make it look like a crayfish. And the emerald ash borer costume is really a cockroach. So you just spray it green, but like it has the wings and feathers and an antenna on it. So you just have to make it green somehow.
No purple loosestrife costume?
We're just gonna have like the fake bouquet of it. We can just give people fake strings of. Oh, hey, Angelique.
Well,
I don't know how to help other people do this. I feel like all of the success that I've had on partnerships in Cook County is because it's the best county in the state to do AIS prevention. We don't have very many infestations. We don't have anything that's manageable. We just have spiny water fleas and rusty crayfish. And because we're a small community, but we're friendly. Like we're a community that needs each other and we're always interacting. So the sheriff is also the basketball coach and the brewery owner comes to my yoga class and plays softball with my kid. And I'm in the book club with the attorney and yada, yada. Like we just all know each other. And there's so many ways to make these partnerships happen. Like you're at the post office, the grocery store, and you just meet these people that are also really good professionals, and these partnerships just happen. If I lived in any other county, I could not give these presentations because I have no idea how to do this.
Connections are sure important. And hopefully others have connections with their brewery. That'd be the start, right?
Complimenting them. It's like, I love your beer. This is delicious. How can we just making it an incentive for the brewery also. Like for them, they got more more clients, more customers, because we had this huge party in their parking lot and then we were giving away free beer and other free things.
Yeah, and it certainly allows them to promote their beer to a new audience. Yeah.
We didn't do any surveys and we probably won't this year, but I don't know. Has to be overlap between people that drink microbrews and people that canoe or fish, but there's probably also some people that have never heard of invasive species before. So it's another way to reach a wider audience. Did you charge for the glasses?
Yep.
We did not. They were free pint glasses. There were 50 of them. They had to answer 3 questions. Don't remember the questions, but they were very easy.
So I think Sarah also had a relationship with the brewery there in Erie, Pennsylvania, but I don't remember exactly what that was. She might have been just a patron, but she was able to get that going. And I think that it does serve as a model that could be built up in other communities that have breweries. And certainly we all have a lot of breweries.
The Crawdaddies, there's the group of guys that I've given a grant to harvest rusty crayfish on a lake, and then they have a commercial license and they have MDH certified. So they're harvesting the crayfish and then they're holding them in their own tanks to purge them, and then they're selling them to restaurants. They also have a contract with some breweries in the cities. I don't remember which ones, but that's another like, hey, I know if I can figure out what breweries they are and let you all know, like, this brewery is getting rusty crayfish from us, so they would probably also be willing to do something like this with beer.
Any other questions or comments for Amanda? Otherwise, I have a comment. Well, let's go with the questions or comments from the floor first.
I guess I'll mirror what Amanda was saying, and I'll kind of giving away what I'm going to talk about too. But it's like connecting the natural resource world with the social fabric in the community. I mean, it's really about the place, right? And institutions in some way, like restaurants or breweries. These are places where people gather, people talk, people have conversations. They're passionate about their area, and it's just going in and saying, hello, my name is Spencer McGrew. I'm with the Invasive Species Program, Zebra Mussels. How can we make a deal? How can we talk? How can we just get something started? It's basic. It's almost cold calling in a sense, but it works. It really does. And if you don't set expectations, you won't get disappointed. So you just gotta just keep trying. Try.
Along with that, there's staff turnovers a lot. So if you get a no, it doesn't mean that you're never going to get a yes.
That's right. Never give up.
Hey, Ingrid just put a comment in the chat, so I'll just read it. I could see this at a restaurant, wine bar, coffee shop, etc. Thanks, Amanda.
Yep. The Dockside Fish Market sells them by pound, and then there's appetizers at the Angry Trout and at Gunflint Tavern. So there's other restaurants in town that are getting them.
I'll just share based on my own experience with Bent Distillery down in the Twin Cities. That's Bent Distillery. And then also with Bent Paddle here with the 2 crawfish boils that we had. They were very open and receptive to integrate in invasive crayfish education along with an event. They were very, very open to that. So you could also try that sort of approach as well.
As long as you do most of the work and they don't have to alter their work schedule, because they're short staffed just like everyone else. So just make
Yes, I agree, Amanda. Unfortunately, it froze up on my screen just for a moment. You're moving now. Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Amanda? Definitely.
Come up and visit. Come up and visit, have some beer. We can camp in my yard. We've got basement futons.
That's a generous offer.
All 67 of you on here, come on up.
Who doesn't like Grand Marais? Okay, I don't see anything else, Tina, in the chat. I don't see any other hands up, so maybe we should move on. All right, I see a head nodding. You're moving. That's great. All right, now we will go to our panel discussion. So we're going to talk about partnerships some more. We've got Holly, Amanda, Sarah, and Spencer. And in advance of the panel discussion, we've got 3 questions that we'd like to propose that each of the speakers answer, and we'll read them just one at a time, starting with the first one. So please share an example of a new relationship you've built and how it evolved into a partnership. And if you can, speakers, please answer the questions about the who's, the what, the whys, the wheres, and the whens. So let's kick it off with Holly.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so I would say a new relationship not necessarily maybe new to Minnesota, but new to our office in Lucero County, is partnering more with the extension office. So I felt like they were underutilized resource, and there was a lot of potential there. So within I would say the last year, we've partnered with them at least 3 or 4 times on different things, not all just AIS related too. And specifically, we partnered with them with a Purple Loose Strife workshop that we hosted. So we were able to get them to come to Roseville, collect the beetles. They even helped with the event itself, promoting it. They even intern wrote a great article about it and created some new resources as well. So that was something we had not had before, and now it's available on our website. And then additionally, we talked about for next year, we're going to, essentially do the same thing, but we're also going to work with Starry Trek too. That was just one example, but we all, we both wanted to get more involved with each other as far as partnering, and then, find different ways to utilize our strengths and weaknesses essentially, and try to create a workshop. And it worked out really well. And now we're partnering more and more with them. So it's just something, it was just asking a question and they said yes. So it was super easy and super convenient because they're literally right across the road. So it was an easy partnership.
Thanks, Holly.
I missed that partnership. Can you say who it's with?
The extension office here. And I think our extension office works with Lucero County, and I think it's Waseca County too, which is often the case. Most extension offices, I think, have two or three different counties that they cover.
Yep, they're regional. Amanda, would you like to provide some comments?
You all heard about my brewery. That was one new partnership. Another one, media businesses. There's, one business, we filmed local celebrities in Grand Marais with AIS messaging and had that on YouTube with geolocation on it. So if you're on YouTube and you're in Cook County with geolocation on, it would pop up. And we had, for our small county, we had 1.4 thousand views. 1.4? Yeah, 1.4K. No, I'm being dyslexic. 4.1. And our county has 4,000 people in it. So just to have 4,000 views, I thought was really exciting. So why? Because we wanted something locally that people can, there's so many messages out there, but not faces that they can see every day. So the mayor and the commissioner and a person that she's a singer at one of our local bands who's always playing every Friday night at the bar. We're doing another one this year. And another partnership I formed was with NRRI, which is the National Natural Resource Reserve Institute in Duluth with UND. So I'm really excited about getting more research projects done up here. And that formed just by, they had a rusty crayfish project and reached out to us in the Arrowhead, St. Louis Lake in Cook County. We're doing research on wild rice and rusty crayfish.
Cool. I guess I'll go. Yeah, Spencer McGrew with Otter Tail County. I'll talk about an in progress partnership that we have that I'm still working on. That's had some speed bumps, but I'm not giving up. And that's reaching out and working with the high school fishing leagues, affiliated with the high school, the state high school league. There's in our Otter Tail County, or our region, northwestern Minnesota, there are roughly 500 students per year involved in this sport that they can letter in and do all that stuff and go varsity, all that. And I want to, I just view that as like a pipeline. I talked about that a little bit earlier, of a place where we can inculcate this conservation ethos into young people that will, because fishing's a lifetime hobby, and incorporate sort of ecological stewardship into that lifetime hobby. So that they can go out and spread the message for me on my behalf, or on behalf of the invasive species program. Last summer, one of the watercraft inspectors is actually a coach. One of the watercraft inspectors we hired as a coach for the high school fishing league. So he goes out, I think they call them boat guides or whatever. He is responsible for taking the kids out or the student athletes out, driving the boat, making sure they're wearing life jackets, making sure they're following the rules, facilitating the whole thing, making it possible. Also, another one of my watercraft inspectors is a teacher at one of the high schools. He's active in fishing, and a superintendent of another school in Bertha Hewitt is sort of the president of the local Heart of Lakes Fishing League. So using all these connections, I kind of triangulated onto the superintendent to say, hey, how can we do something together? And we went back and forth, and they kind of ended up on this what do the students need? What would be how could we help them? And it ended up on like maybe sponsoring them in some way, like with their uniforms or jerseys, having the clean drain dry stop sign on it or some invasive species language. But I took that to our task force and I mulled on it, and I'm like, sponsorship isn't, we want some more skin in the game than just having our name on the uniforms. And I thought about, what about if we had like a scholarship or something, where students could, get their tackle paid for if they wrote an essay about invasive species or did some sort of community leadership. Didn't really go anywhere with that. And then another thing I was thinking of is having basically AIS officers, like making the student athletes, one of them basically in charge of making sure that the whole team that's going out on the lake is doing all the right things. So giving them a sort of a command or a leadership position. These are all things that have been floating around. We haven't taken any action because there's the time schedule for getting these student athletes out and off the water. It's very compressed. So we're just trying to figure out how we can kind of work around that time thing. And I think the way I'm going to do it is as we hire watercraft inspectors, we get a lot of high school seniors that have been in the high school fishing leagues, just get them working for us essentially and spreading the message. And having the coaches, or the teachers be seasonal watercraft inspectors and just being in the community. It's really community based. I mean, Otter Tail County has got 60,000 people. It's larger than Amanda's up in Cook, but it's still very tightly knit. And just building those connections, maintaining relationships, having the community basically not policing itself, but doing the work for you is really the path that we see that has the most results. And they're hearing this message from their friends, their neighbors, and not from me, boring old Spencer McGrew. They're hearing it from people that they care and respect, and all of that. So that's sort of how we do it.
Thank you, Spencer. And Sarah.
I'm Sarah with Murray County, way down in the Southwest, if you're not familiar with where Murray County is. So for our probably newest relationship that we built and are working into a partnership is last year we were trying to expand our youth education by way of a coloring contest during our fair and that type of thing. And so we ended up working with the daycares and childcare centers because we all know teachers are way overloaded with the amount of work that they need to do. Just another way for us to get in with the kids and that sort of thing. We had, it was a simple request at the start. It was like, hey, we have these coloring pages. Would you be willing to distribute them to your families? We got an overwhelmingly positive response. I think there was one daycare that said, no, no, no. But everybody else did. And I guess, going forward in the future, our plan is just to continue to maintain that relationship, even if on certain years it's just like, hey, we have this flyer about youth events, will you distribute that to your families and that sort of thing, just to keep our youth education and that sort of stuff, outreach initiatives out there. So.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So let's move on to our next question.
Doug, can I pop in real quick?
Sure.
Since we have a little bit of time to work with, if there's anyone else on the call, because we got 60 people here today, if anyone else wanted to share a new relationship that they've started, I'd love to hear from a couple people on the call.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I want someone to speak up. I want to know what other people are doing.
Absolutely.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, I'll speak up, but Amanda already knows about this, so sorry. Last year it's similar to the brewery partnership, but we got a hold of the Ely Folk School, and they do a lot of community events. They do, you know, potlucks and free events for the public, and they wanted to do a crayfish boil. So, and then they wanted like a folk school twist on it. So we did a Swedish crayfish party around the time of the traditional Swedish crayfish harvest, which is in August. And that was a lot of fun because we did special decorations for it. Everybody wore funny hats and bibs, and we sang Swedish drinking songs and had aquavit, and so I think and then I did a little spiel about crayfish and invasive species just to kind of kick things off. But yeah, it's fun to put a little twist on an event like that, and I think it'll be the first of many, so hopefully we'll be doing it again this year.
This is Sharon Nassel from Hubbard County Coalition of Lake Associations. And we had a fun partnership, and it's going to be continuing with our Hubbard County Solid Waste area, and also our Developmental Achievement Center, where the folks at the transfer station are keeping their eyes open for tossed away rake cans. And then the rake cans go to the Development Achievement Center, who learned how to do welding, and they make them into the double-headed rakes and then use ski ropes that have been tossed away. And so there's a lot of reuse going into something new. And then the Developmental Achievement Center can also sell those like for $30. So it's a fun thing to do. Keeps the rakes out of the dump.
Another thing, just for the benefit of the group, I think of our job or my job more as sales, essentially. And basically building a book of business is what they call it in sales, but building contacts and checking in on them is crucial to both building a relationship and maintaining one. I mean, there's huge software companies at Salesforce. I mean, that's all they do is they build software so that people that are can connect with their customers in business. We need to connect with and visit the local businesses, the resorts, say hi, make sure they remember your face, make sure they, you know, send your inspectors around to meet the resort owners, and just it's putting it's you got to put yourself out there. It really is how I found success is just cold calling, getting the door slammed on you. It's never really happened to me, but it can. But you just got to do it, and you just got to try.
Any other comments, examples out there of partnerships you're working on? Okay, last call. All right, well, let's move on to our next question then. I'm going to put it in the chat. So please share an example of an established partnership and how you maintain that relationship. I think Spencer kind of jumped ahead on that one, which is great. Give some examples, the accomplishment, outcomes, impacts, and challenges, etc. And how does this serve as a model for partnership building?
I can start it off. So the partnership that I would say that we've maintained for maybe one of the longest partnerships is with our Parks Department, which is nice in the sense that a lot of our accesses are also right next to county parks. So that's pretty convenient. A couple things we've done with the Parks Department is treatment of aquatic invasive species in front of the park area. So individuals have better access to recreation, like in front of docks or the shoreline and whatnot. That's been pretty successful. We've also partnered with them to put up garbage cans and signs about aquatic invasive species. And these garbage cans aren't just like your standard 50-gallon plastic ones. They're heavy duty, anchored in the ground, so no one can. Our concern was people were throwing like TVs and all sorts of random junk in there that we didn't want. So we did that as well, and the Parks Department was more than happy to have the the containers and then take out the garbage when they do their routes. So that's been pretty great. We've hosted events at the different parks. It's been really easy to connect with Tyler because of that. And so we've had a few events held there, both like aquatic invasive species, shoreline plantings, things like that. And then we've been able to promote our aquatic invasive species prevention at these places as well. One specific thing I've been able to do is put signs up, which is nice. I have that ability. It's not always that easy I'm sure, to put up signs up in other areas, but at the park where there was purple loosestrife, I was able to post these signs. Tyler's like, sure, wherever you want. And I was like, okay, great. So I just put it on the trails, and it made it really easy. But I think that relationship, he's also the ag inspector for the county, so I'm helping him maybe with invasive species he's not so familiar with. And so one day we did take just a drive and looked at all the parks and said, hey, what's here, what isn't here? And he goes, Holly, you really know your plants. So I was like, yes, I do. I'm kind of a nerd that way, but it's just that taking that time to talk with him and go through that stuff with him. And then, we're able to work through and partner together as far as getting permits for the parks. And we're just always in communication with one another. And I think that's been really, really helpful as far as getting both of our goals done, right? Like we still have different goals and objectives, but we're able to achieve it through that partnership. I think we are going to try doing some kind of management plan too for our county parks, specifically for invasive species. So it'd be both aquatic and terrestrial, but I think that would help give him some guidance too, because his background isn't necessarily in invasive species. So I think that might help him as well. And I would say probably the biggest challenge with all of this is just capacity, right? Like we're all pinched for resources and time. So he's a one-man show, and then technically I'm a one-woman show at this point. Luckily we did get some more staff, so I might be able to have him help me out a little bit more, but it just always seems to be the issue is just not having enough time. There's so many good things to do, and just trying to figure out what your priorities are. But I think that relationship that we have makes it really easy for me to pick up the phone, send an email, and say, hey, Tyler, what do you think about this? And he's never told me no, and I've never told him no, which is great. Sometimes that doesn't always happen that way, and we're always sharing ideas and bouncing off of one another. So I think that's been a really, really good partnership, and it's been an easy relationship. So hopefully that's the case for a lot of other people. But yeah, just building success and reaching our goals, I think, was the biggest thing, and just being able to work with one another on that.
Thanks, Holly. Let's turn to Amanda.
Okay, deep breath, everyone. I have partnerships with a lot of people that I'm happy to share about. One is all the schools. So Cook County, we are relatively small. We have one high school, one middle school, but 4 elementary schools. And so I visit all of them, all the elementary schools every spring. And then I do one class in middle school and one class in high school. So we've done crayfish dissecting with the AP bio class. And then there's always some sort of with the kids, like we're outside running around playing crayfish tag, or we're little baby bass, something fun. And that's been really easy. All the kids and the teachers love it coming back. It's a nice little break from testing in May. We helped the high school with their Envirothon group. They always go to state in the last 9 years that I've been here. So it's really fun to help them with that. We've been doing Take a Kid Fishing Day. So that's partnering with the Forest Service and the DNR, the county, and other businesses to donate the bait, the life jackets, the boats, the lunch, just doing all the things. Forest Service, I borrow, I'm again a one-woman show and I work part-time. So I borrow the Forest Service's boat and a technician and I go out monitoring. So that's a partnership that's very important to me because I don't have a boat. I don't really want one. The sheriff's office, we have that agreement, the contract that was going around in the first episode. That was my template that everyone is borrowing. So yay, it helps other people. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to have overtime for sheriffs because since 2020, our department has been short-staffed. Like we are down 4 deputies and there's no way that I can have them do overtime because they're already overtiming all the time that they can. I'm hoping that more deputies come up here and that we can start doing overtime again. I have posters. I borrowed this from Becker County that Carl is on the, maybe he's not, but Becker County's Clean Your Johnson poster that is in all of the Outfitters restaurants, like any restaurant that will have it. Like if you have a bathroom, can you please put this poster in all of them? And I get so many compliments, people that are just emailing and calling because our contact is on there, just like, this is the funniest thing ever. We've altered it slightly from the original Clean Your Johnson, but it's still hilarious.
Also convenience stores, Amanda.
Yeah, the hardware store, the gas station,
The gas station,
bake shops, anywhere with a public bathroom has that sign. There's monthly segments on the local radio. So we're lucky enough to have a local radio station with live hosts. You can sit down and have a conversation with them. It's really exciting. And they ask questions and they know our voices in the community. And it's a fun time. And then the AIS collaborative that Liz and Carrie and John were talking about earlier. That's a nice partnership.
Thanks, Amanda. I'll just echo that the Envirothons are a fabulous way to reach out to youth. And I did several of them and one actually went to nationals that I was involved with. So, all right, Sarah, let's hear from you.
So when I was thinking about this question, what I guess what really popped into my mind was our local businesses. Because when I started with the county in 17, that's kind of where it started. You know, when I'm starting to build relationships with our local businesses, it's always a small request. You know, can you hand out these coasters? Can you distribute these license holders, do this, do that, hang this flyer, hang that poster, and then over time, maybe it increases to this, that, or the other thing, depending on which business you're talking about. But I guess as far as like building my partnerships, I always start really small. Start with an easy request and then build over time. There are certain things that we've done, especially since 2018 when we had our first new infestation, to try and consolidate materials. One example of that is in our license holders that we have. I don't know if anybody else does this, but the DNR's watch cards fit very nicely in the top part. You just slide them in. And there are other things that promotional items that you can just slide information in and it's really easy to get it out there. As far as that, we also do a lot of getting our faces out there. We're in a small rural county in Southwest Minnesota. So we try and get our names and our faces out there. Now, me in particularly, I didn't grow up in Minnesota or Murray County. So when I started for the last 6.5 years, I've had to build and get to know people in this community and make these connections and that sort of thing going forward. And then the other thing I kind of do as I'm thinking about making requests to people, depending on, which partnership we're talking about, I think about their perspective, what concerns, what barriers might they have. And I try and, address those on the front end in, let's say I'm sending out a letter about settlement samplers, I'm trying to, be very clear about how easy this is. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is sign this waiver and send it back to us and we'll do everything, just things like that to make it as easy as possible. And just kind of, I guess, incorporate things, get people to get to know us, and just use, I guess when I started, I kind of used my boss's connections, and because she's been with the county about 20 to 25, over 20 years now. And just little things like that in your community to kind of like the 6 degrees of separation and that sort of thing to get ideas and that sort of thing going forward. So that's kind of how I started. And we've, built some wonderful partnerships. One of our lake service providers, which is not the specific one I was mentioning, he's at the point where he'd do about anything for us and actually assisted us when we lost, or helped me be able to assist the DNR when we lost our aquatic invasive species specialist in doing veliger monitoring and things like that. And he was willing to have staff or whatever we needed go out there so that the DNR could get that data. So.
Thank you, Sarah, for your thoughts. Spencer?
Yeah, kind of echoing what Sarah said about removing barriers. It's the same concept of removing barriers for the boaters, the public access, right? Removing barriers for these businesses or groups to work with us, right? So like the coaster deliveries, one of the longest partnerships we had, we ordered 10,000 coasters a year. I just bring them to bars and restaurants in the county every spring. I walk in, I put them on the counter, the bartender says, thank you. I often go and visit these places and they'll put the coaster out. So I see them, they're being used. So that's the easy thing. So Amanda, when you've done the beer brewing, did they put them on clean drain dry coasters? That'd be the next logical step, right? So that they're drinking the AIS beer on the AIS coaster and just this integrated campaign. Another thing we've done for a number of years is our partnership with our coalition of lake associations. We give them a grant to do basically AIS education awareness. They have an administrative assistant, John Cruz, that puts together a wonderful newsletter. I'd encourage you to find it. I write a monthly article in it. There's about a readership of 2,500 people per month of the newsletter, and that's growing. So people are seeing this stuff and they're talking about it. Earned media, do stuff that gets you in the paper, calls the radio station to call you. I basically get earned media from doing things. And we do paid ads with them or the new local newspaper. But if you're doing interesting things, these papers, these journalists want content. Make that content for them and they'll run it. It's really wonderful because they have a stake in it too. And yeah, it's CRM, it's the customer relationship management. I have a tickler file of the people that I need to talk to, when I need to talk to them, what I'm going to talk about, what I'm going to ask them for, and the small asks lead to the larger asks, right? A few years of doing these coasters, I think I can go to the microbreweries and say, hey, I heard this really cool idea about an AIS beer. Would you be interested? And we've already sort of got the seed planted with the coasters, right? And these cost 5 cents a piece. They're great. So yeah, the small asks can become larger asks. Make your book of business, stay in contact with the people, and just work your book.
Thanks, Spencer. Anybody have any questions based on our colleagues who have just given us some insights into their partnerships? Anybody have any other examples they'd like to share? Go for it. It's open mic.
Doug, I did want to say one more thing. When I started in my position in 2018, which seems like a lifetime ago already, we had about maybe 15 established partnerships. I've tripled that since I've been here. And all I had to do was pick up the phone, go, talk to people in person. I don't want to say it's not really hard, but it's kind of not really hard to talk to someone, right? And I think we kind of get in our shells and just have a conversation. It can lead to other things, and a lot of times those people know other people who know other people, and then you can get on an agenda for a meeting that you wouldn't think you would ever would, or you start building those small relationships and it grows into something else. So just make sure don't be afraid to talk to people and have those conversations. I think that's really important, and it's super easy to grow those partnerships. And once you have all of these wonderful stakeholders, then they're there for you and they're in your back pocket. And then when you have something, you can call them up and ask them. So that's probably my biggest lesson. Partnerships are really, really important, but you need to try in order to develop them. So I guess I challenge everyone to try to make at least one new partnership this year. I think that's a really reasonable goal. And it's, you can do it. I know you can. So that's really important. And then you're going to do all these great things and then brag about it. So it's going to be awesome.
Yes, 100%. Take up Pollyanna Challenge. I support that. Yeah, that's great. You got to do it. You got to sell.
Really is boots on the ground, isn't it?
Well, and it really does get easier. The more people you talk to over the years, the easier it gets.
Yeah, 100%.
Many hands, right? Anybody have any other examples they'd like to share? We are winding down to our last 5 minutes.
I guess another thing is if you're in a hiring committee, for your watercraft inspectors, if you hire them internally, the main thing I look for is an outgoing personality and an effervescent attitude, right? We can teach the invasive species, the science, all that stuff, but people are, and to some degree you can teach people to be salespeople or effervescent as well, but often people's personalities are what they are. But if you can find people that are just really personable, that can spread the message, that know people. I mean, I've got watercraft inspectors that they seem like the whole county knows them, even before they started doing the seasonal job. So they have their contacts that they can reach out and say, "Hey, Spencer, I talked to this guy. He's in landscaping business, and he's really interested in doing like this rinse station project." I mean, that's how it started. So it's knowing people who know people who know people who know people, and building that network. It's just magical. Once you get the snowball rolling, it becomes like a self-rolling snowball that gets bigger and bigger.
Thanks, Spencer.
I'm gonna pop in to say I have to leave to go snatch my kid from the bus stop. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks.
Hey, Amanda.
And thanks for Holly and Amanda and Sarah and Spencer for sharing their comments. Greatly appreciated. Any final parting words?
I would like to do one more little group screenshot of everyone that's participating here today. So if everyone wants to pop their cameras on and wave hello. I just love seeing all the faces behind these workshops, since we don't get to do them a lot in person, and we can get so many more people on these calls when we can host them online. So we like to do a little bit of both these days, but it's also nice to see people's faces. So pop that camera on and I can take a nice little screenshot of us, and maybe you'll see yourself in the annual report this fall. So thanks, everyone. I got it.
All right. Thanks, Tina. And just one last plug. is that, of course, we do have the Upper Midwest Invasive Species Conference coming up. Abstracts are open. We'd really like to have a strong presence of local AIS programs submitting their abstracts and presenting at the conference. All right. And if anybody has any questions about that, you can contact both Tina or I.